Futuristic, fast-paced racing games can be a lot of fun when done well, and since we're going to be waiting a long time seemingly for a new F-Zero title from Nintendo, the closest we're getting at launch is Fast RMX. But does this game end up blasting its way to the finish line, or does it end up exploding at the start? Fast RMX is a very fast-paced racing game that will immediately remind you of the Wipeout series, games such as F-Zero, and even a little bit of pod racing back on the Nintendo 64. Fast RMX features 10 different circuits for you to compete on, each with 3 different tracks for a total of 30 tracks to race on. There's a good variety to the different types of vehicles, though there's a little bit of balancing issues for sure. You unlock more racers as you make it farther into the game, and there are a few that are way overpowered compared to the rest of the vehicles in the game, which was one of my only gripes overall. But there's also 3 different difficulties for you to compete on, so you go through the novice set of cups, then you move on to the next set, and then on to the third set, where things end up ramping up. The difficulty of the tracks themselves and the speed needed to beat them are exponentially increased. Unfortunately, you can't play the main circuit mode multiplayer, so to unlock stuff you will have to play through it single player, but you can do all the circuits local multiplayer with up to 4 racers, or you can actually jump online as well. There's also a time attack feature for each of the tracks also. When it comes to the racetracks themselves, there's a good variety here. The graphics are all well done, and there's some tracks that really end up shining through on the system, especially in the whole fast-paced scheme. You have ones that are done in the nighttime with rain going everywhere, which is one of my favorite tracks for sure. You have ones where you're kind of going through a desert and these giant sand-like worms are popping out of one side and jumping over the track as you're quickly racing underneath of it. There's plenty of futuristic city types of levels with all kinds of loops and upside-down parts of the tracks and lots of jumps for you to complete. There are multiple routes on each of the tracks, so you'll hit a jump and you may think you just have to go for it, but curving your car mid-air, you'll be able to land on another part of the track for a quick shortcut. There is no weapons to take out your opponents, but you'll be gathering orbs on the racetrack and then being able to blast forward using the turbo button, which will be essential in order to try to get ahead of the pack, as well as the whole mechanic of changing the color from blue to orange. And you have to do this all the time in order to use boosts. So basically you'll have a blue gate coming up, and if you're not blue, you won't end up blasting enough in order to get across whatever gap's coming up. That also leaves little runways of blue and orange for you to quickly switch between the two colors in order to get the most amount of speed possible. So there's a lot going on each one of the tracks that ended up making the gameplay never a dull thing. Besides that main single-player racing, there's also that multiplayer for 4-player same system local, and while I haven't dived a lot into the online, you also have that included as well. For the same system multiplayer though, there was no lagging or slowdown on the racetracks, and everything stayed pretty smooth throughout the course of us playing it. You can also just use the Joy-Con if you want, so 2 sets of Joy-Con will have 4 players being able to play at once. Fast RMX is available for $19.99 on a Nintendo Switch, and if you're a fan of games like Wipeout or the F-Zero series, you may want to end up giving this title a look, considering it's going to be a little bit before we end up getting other racers like it on the Switch. In the end, I'm going to be giving, though, the game a 7 out of 10, but that's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.